All right, so Games Without Borders, folks. We just took a brief moment among us here to introduce ourselves to each other. It's kind of funny. We're such a diverse and disjoint set of interesting companies that it actually took me a while to put this group of people together. I'm trying to figure out where's a good place to collect a series of social networks that could provide interesting distribution opportunities for game developers. And for the amount of time it took me to track everyone down, I think there's some value add here because, I have some relatively deep industry connections, and managing to find everyone here at whatever bar and or jail and or San Francisco dive I found them at to get them together for here at Seattle took a little bit of doing. And without too much further ado, we'll kind of jump into it. We're going to have kind of an egalitarian format here. We're not going to have a Eric Goldbergian question and answer format. We're going to just let everyone here speak with equal weighting as to what their network offers, what they can bring to you as developers, and what the growth opportunities, long-term prospects are. So without further ado, I'm going to jump into it and kind of talk to it. I'm John Zeter. I'm the Vice President of Engineering, former Director of Developer Relations from High Five Networks. High Five's been a social network around since 2003. We've evolved into a social play network. We're focusing on games only, much like LinkedIn is for a business use case for social networks, and sites like Match.com are for dating and all that good stuff. We want to focus on gameplay. To that end, we have Alex St. John on board, formerly of Wild Tangent, and Microsoft and the DirectX team, who's been on board to help steer our direction and vision for the past 2 years as we've slowly pivoted our business. Decent sized network. I'm not going to talk too much to the demographics. They're all up there for you guys to take a look at. I'm going to speak a little bit to our strategy, where we see we're going, and why we think that we're an exciting partner. So if you take a look at where the networks are today and the size and scale of social networks that are out there and deployed, one of the things that I think is interesting and obvious is everyone's monitoring their lifetime value of customer versus cost per acquisition. And I think you're going to see some phenomenal changes over the next year or so in internet economics. What you're going to see is the lifetime value of your customer on Facebook and your cost per acquisition of traffic on Facebook to vary differently. And I think that the average in those two cases against what you can get on the internet is gonna invert. And sometime within the next 12 months or so, you're gonna find that it's going to be an easier business and a better business to kind of go off into the wilds rather than kind of capture yourself in this constrained environment where the rules change every week and software patches come out on Fridays for you to scramble over your weekends and get things fixed up. And hopefully as we make that happen, we're finishing up our SocioPay API, which is now live and available to go out there and help you monetize your audience better. We also have a plan to get our Sociopath APIs for letting you build importers and viral tools into your sites coming very shortly so that you can put it on your own sites and into your own destinations. I think this can be very big. And as we get our stuff out there and get it into your hands, I'm hoping that we can provide some real value to you as game developers and partners moving forward. I think that focusing on a particular vertical is a unique strategy for us, and it's something we've chosen very deliberately. And as we get our APIs rolled out and out and about is the Canadian in me speaking, as we get that all set up and available to everybody, the long-term plan is to sort of say, is it better for me to sit down, control my own destiny at mycoolsocialgame.com, or am I better served by partnering and putting it on destinations? We think that there's a hybrid answer there, and we're going to have a destination where you can bring your game, put it up, have it sit with other titles, and maybe find that in some cases users want to go from treadmill to treadmill and discover that rather than leaving all the goodness within the game, they want a site where there's going to be some long-term rewards for playing over time across a plethora of games, as well as providing different rewards and different motivations on your own sites for your content. So that's something to consider. I don't know how I'm running up against the 10-minute clock here, but I want to make sure everyone's got a chance to say something. So I just want to point out that our big difference here is the focus on gaming. The team on board's got a lot of game pedigree in terms of length in the industry and things that they've done that are interesting and fun, and we think that that's going to be very important. And we're not so concerned about real identity, so for someone to come to the site, set up an account, start playing games, that's very interesting. If you go to Facebook and you're trashing zombies at 4 o'clock in the morning on Sunday, maybe grandma doesn't want to see that when you're late for church, right? So when you think about it, High Five Networks, social play network, destination for gamers, Facebook, that's where you go if you want to poke your mom. Next up, we have Sebastian from Plinga, and he's going to be doing double duty here because he's recently departed from Studio VZ. I'm going to have him talk a little bit about both companies.
Yeah. Thanks a lot, John. Thanks again for inviting us here. So, as John already said, so I was working for VZ Networks just like a few weeks ago. So I would first of all give you a very short pitch to VZ Networks, and then I will introduce Plinga. So VZ Networks is Germany's biggest social network, I would say. They're currently like a little bit bigger than Facebook. They consist of 3 different social networks there, with in some 18 million users. All of these 3 networks are really dedicated into a target audience. For example, there's SchülerVZ for the group of all of these school kids. There's MeinVZ for young professionals, and StudiVZ for all of the university people. They just opened their gaming platform, I think 1 year ago, and integrate a lot of games until now, and they're very successful with a farming game on #1 with more than 1 million daily active users. And yeah, there's a lot of good stuff going there, but nevertheless, I'm now here for Plinga. So let me introduce what we are doing. So first of all, Plinga is a social gaming publisher. So what we do is like we help all of the social game developers to bring their games into all of the local markets out there in Europe. So what we saw is that it might be very difficult for a Facebook developer to integrate to all of these smaller social networks, for example, in the Netherlands, in Poland, in Germany, in Spain, and all of these countries. So what Plinga is doing is we help these developers to bring their games from a technical point of view into all of these networks, which means they offer an API, so integrate once, deploy everywhere API to get this game up and running in all of these countries and all of these social networks. On top of that, they are providing like translation and localization support for graphics, text, and art. So they're helping you to get into these local markets, to translate everything, to get this thing that it really works in these specific markets and with specific languages and all which is needed to get this up and running. Once the game runs, they even do like community management for you. They do community support stuff and everything else for the destination languages. So overall, they offer like a full service package. So you could hand over your game and they will integrate this game to all of these networks, games, portals which are out there. Currently we have like 35 games in our portfolio and deploying these games into 25 different social networks. We do the full business development for you, get in contact with all the social networks in the Netherlands and discussing with them and negotiating what promotion and package you could get for your games to make it a huge success. As you can see on our slide, so our biggest game is currently Pet Party. It has across all of these networks around about 8 million MAUs. So this is completely off Facebook. So there's a huge potential in Europe out there to get your game into a great success. Yeah, that's.
Okay, hit the key. Who's up next? All right. So what do we do here? Want to head up there?
Hi everybody, my name is Andrew Peterson. I'm the VP GM of games for Tagged. Tagged is a social discovery network that's really focused around the idea of allowing people to meet and connect and build relationships online, which is very different than sort of how Facebook is structured. Facebook is really structured around the concept of social maintenance, where people who you already know in the real world or have acquaintances through schools or business affiliations, you know, sort of connect. Where we're different is that we're trying to find ways in which we can link and connect people who are interested in building real relationships through Tagged. And we believe that games is a key strategy for doing it. I have a wealth of experience in terms of building games that have social functionality and true social functionality, where people actually develop relationships through the shared experience of playing games. So Tagged right now is in the process of ramping up its internal game studio. So we're very much invested and dedicated in terms of leveraging this use case so that we're able to build a compelling experience that not only resonates with existing Tagged players, but also resonates with people who are interested in playing games and interested in playing games with other people. In terms of opportunities for developers that are interested in expanding into what I would consider to be true social games, games that involve collaborative gameplay, team gameplay, we're really interested in finding game and game mechanics that fit within the Tagged world. So we're not interested in necessarily porting games that have been done on Facebook onto the Tagged platform. We want to create unique experiences that resonate with our audience and tie into the pipes that enable us to facilitate those real social connections. Tagged has, as you can see on the slide, about 100 million registered users, evenly distributed between male and female. About 30% of our traffic comes from the US. The audience tends to be a little bit older. 33 is the median age, 21 plus. We have a variety of games that are on the site right now that kind of represent different experiments with licensed content, distributed content. But what we believe is the opportunity is to create original content that works within the Tagged world. We currently have a game called Pets, which enables people who come to the site to be bought and sold, and it has an economy that's built into it. It is incredibly successful. It has 500,000 DAU and monetizing at double-digit ARPDAU. And we think there's an opportunity to tap into that same type of audience and that same kind of economic benefit for not only our internal games, but games that are developed by third parties for Tagged. We really want to curate our content. We want to make sure the content is complementary to the content that we're building internally so that we can have a well-rounded portfolio of games. We're definitely open to talking with developers about specific games that we're interested in creating, or if you have ideas for content that you would like to see brought to a service like Tagged, we're definitely open to those kinds of relationships. We also have a strong and growing mobile presence. About 20% of our daily active users are coming through mobile. So we have an Android app, iOS app, and mobile web app that's driving a lot of traffic for us, and we believe that mobile represents a great opportunity in the future, particularly when you look at sort of true social interaction and leveraging a lot of the location capabilities of the mobile devices.
So in the interest of being contrarian, our good friend from Netlog here has got a deck that I'm going to plug in for a moment. So let's just play some easy listening music while I plug this in just super quick. So, okay. There we go. Are we up or down? Oh, let me hit the F8 key one more time. So we're tracking nicely. We'll have lots of time at the end for questions and stealing business cards.
We'll flip through the deck very quickly.
How fun and exciting. All right, let's wait for this to recognize and then pop it up. If you want to start talking about your
Sure.
second.
My name is Simon. I'm the managing director of Gacha. Gacha is the company that manages the games on the Netlog. Yeah, that's the one. Yeah. Okay.
I'm trigger happy. All right.
Okay, great.
F5 makes it go. All right.
Okay, let's make it pretty quick. So Gacha is the gaming company that manages the games on the Netlog site. As you can see here, we regrouped as Massive Media, and Netlog, the social network, is a separate company from Gacha. We develop multiplayer, casual, flash games. We do various things especially for the Netlog site. And especially what we do is distribute social games on the netlog.com site, which is most of our business. In terms of stats, you can see it's mostly male. Our geographic distribution is mostly Western Europe, and we have a really growing audience of Arabic-speaking people, which is one of our specialties now, since we create and adapt material, a lot of content and games for our partners. We also are working together with Plinga, who was here before, to release some of the games in Arabic. And from our past year or so, we can tell that it has been quite profitable for us adapting games into Arabic. Age demographics, we have a lot of young people under 24, but also a big chunk of people over 40-year-old. Most successful game for us in the past year have been Happy Harvest, especially because of the Arabic demographic across our network. This is our site. It has a algorithm that basically adapts the content based on the users depending upon their social demographics. A little bit about our hub and the games we developed. In terms of statistics, you can see in the past 6-7 months, we have adapted a lot of our content to be social games, and as a result, we have a big growth in gameplay and revenue in the social due to the social games that we have placed. And this is something that I just wanted to show you guys what was in the Inside Social in the past week or so. Arab games are games in Arabic are really gaining momentum on even on Facebook. This is our portal in Arabic, and we have quite good success with that portal. We noticed, by the way, that 78% of the people on the site are male audience, and 22% are female. And for some reason, we noticed that they're all playing really casual women games. It took us a while to figure out why Arabs actually like Arab-speaking people like the women type games, and then we found out that basically demographic is quite skewed if you measure it in the Arab territories. It's a lot of the women actually impose as men and register as men. So it's you notice that only due to the pattern of usage on the site. It's actually very hard to tell who's actually playing on your site. The Arabic gamer statistics are extremely different from the rest. They have a lot of time spent on the site. Most of them seem to be young, and we get quite a high ARPU from Arab players, which is something for you to consider. And we are an expert in actually transforming games into Arabic and porting them in that language and doing localization. This is part of the work we did with Elex to do adaptation to the Arabic needs, not just language, it's also localization. Why work with us? It's our expertise. We have a wide reach in Europe. We know how to port into other languages. We have great discoverability. It's easy and quick to work with us, and we know our crowd very well. I guess that's it. Let's leave some room for questions, I guess. Yeah.
All right, let's return you to your previously scheduled one-page PowerPoints in a moment here. That's the one. There we go.
Thank you. Thanks. Hi, so I'm Jim GREER, and I'm the CEO and co-founder of Congregate, along with a number of others that we have in the audience here. So Congregate we've been around for about 5 years as a company, about 4 years as a site. We have about a total of, I think, 44,000 games, the vast majority of them single-player Flash games. So an average Congregate player comes in to play often more casual, simple games, or at least single-player. And then we, through the community features we have, achievements, profiles, and so forth, kind of draw them in, suck them into having an addiction around these games, and then move them into the 70 or so virtual goods games that we have that are now representing about 2/3 of our revenue. So virtual goods is, really a big category for us, and actually the growth curve that Netlog just showed in terms of the number of games on their site and the percentage of revenue is very much mirrors our recent trends. You can see some of our demographics there are quite different from some of the other panelists. We're very male heavy, 85% male. We're mostly US, Canada, UK, and the rest of Western Europe, Netherlands, Germany. The Scandinavian countries are very big. The site's only in English, so it's really an English-speaking audience. As I said, about median age is around 19. A lot of teenagers, a lot of people in their 20s and early 30s, but not really a casual audience. I mean, we're sort of where a core player comes to play web games. And I think, that's our big distinction from Facebook. We are a very social site. There's chat, there's profiles, there's, guilds in a lot of our games and other very core social features. But the games come first. Our homepage is all games. You don't have to use sort of viral spread to gain an audience on Congregate, although, it's always fine. But on Congregate, having a highly rated game that people enjoy playing with good retention is really the key to success. And those demographics, one positive aspect of having a core audience is that these are people who typically define themselves as gamers. They tend to own consoles. The Nielsen data for our site shows that the percentage of people who own Xboxes is very similar to IGN, which is all about console games. So they're used to spending money on games. So that translates into average revenues per user being quite high, 10 cents, and as high as 30 cents per day per DAU for some of our strategy MMOs and other games in those categories. So the other part I should mention about our company is last year we were acquired by GameStop, the number one physical games retailer in the world, and they've been promoting Congregate to their user base or their customer base, really. We're starting the promotion of individual titles very heavily in GameStop. So starting next month, you go into a GameStop and you'll be handed a physical card from a collectible card game with a code on it that when you go home and enter it, you'll be entered to win, I think, $10,000 worth of GameStop games. And the more you play, the more entries you get. So very, tangible use of GameStop's 6,500 worldwide stores, which generate $10 billion in revenue a year. So these are people who spend a lot of money on games, and that's very typical of a Congregate player as well. The other thing I should mention, so 14.5 million monthly active users. They spend 28.5 million hours on the site per month, so our average player is spending 2 hours, which is very high and reflects kind of the addicted nature of our players. So you can kind of think of us as sort of like an Xbox Live for web games, and very social site, but also with a very focused, competitive gamer. Although, frankly, a lot of our top games are actually come over from Facebook as well, and represent sort of social RPGs and other genres that are pretty easy to play. So we'd love to talk to developers about coming onto the platform. One thing about us is that we have a lower number of games. We really partner with developers to promote their games. And while our 14.5 million is smaller than 500 million or whatever Facebook is at, you are if you have a good game, you will reach a large number of people, and there are people who will spend money on games. So it's a good place to be. We're actually about to put the email address of Anthony, who can field all your questions. I'm happy to talk as well. And we will have, right now, just go to Congregate and click the developer section, but we'll have a dedicated developers portal starting hopefully next week. So come check that out, see all the docs and so forth. Thanks.
All right, so for anyone who came here with the expectation of some hair pulling and awkward quotes for the media or anything like that, I want to apologize. You know, like I said, this is a very egalitarian panel set up by a bunch of folks who have very unique and very viable business propositions for all you developers out there. And without further ado, let's open it up to general questions and move on to the business card exchange for the folks who want to follow up after the show, and then we can get on to beer o'clock. So let's open it up for questions. Anybody? I guess you can all tell where my mind is. So, show of hands. One hand, two hand. Wave violently. You there.
I'd like to go back to Simon with the Arabic audience that you have. Was that planned?
It's what?
The Arabic audience that you had. So that probably happened organically.
Yes. It did.
What do you attribute that to?
We don't really, we cannot put our fingers on something specific, but we believe that the settings on Netlog as a social network contribute to this. We automatically set the privacy to high level, and people can actually change the setting. And for some reason, they found it pretty appealing on our site. It grew very fast, and we couldn't really put our fingers on a specific reason why. But we were working pretty hard on providing them the actual content they were asking. One of the things we noticed in terms of our experience is that trying to put games in English, for example, does not work very well with them. Especially, and you have to be really conscious when it comes to cultural nuances in the games. So you have to really scan all the games and make sure that there's nothing offensive there.
So now you have this audience that you've been playing for. I mean, you probably feel the need to do something about it, right?
I wish I could fill the need much quicker than I am right now. The reason is Arabic content is not widely available. Arabic is very difficult. It really creates a lot of problems for social developers. You have to know how to adapt. Flash is not very agreeable to Arabic, and also browsers are not all browsers, especially IE7, is not working very well with them and with that language in many cases. So it requires a lot of adaptation. It requires specialty, and we are learning very fast. We are looking for content, and I think if any of you is planning to adapt any game into Arabic, we would be very happy to help you out on this one, and you would need help.
All right, any further
It's
questions?
actually, if you look at Inside Social, it's growing very fast also on Facebook.
Any other questions out there? Yes, no, maybe so. Gentleman over there with the one finger pointing.
Could you drill down a little on the females registering as males? Is that attributable to like policy or something, or?
No, actually, we think, actually, we talked with people from Dubai about this. It seems like Arabic women are not, they don't want to be harassed or approached by other men, so they pose as men, as young men, and that's a way to actually not being, left alone. They can play in silence, no messaging, no offensive language. We noticed the same pattern to some degree in Turkey, in the Turkish language. It seems like in these cultures, if you are a woman and you are online, you're kind of open the field for other people, especially men, to harass you or send you messages, and they don't want that.
Quick follow-up. Are you focused? It seems like that's an interesting and potentially huge audience you have. What about the English-based or domestic Arabic-speaking audience? Are you moving into that space, or is anybody already in that space?
You mean, what do you call domestic?
North America, for example, a lot of Arabic-speaking people in North America that may want your content, but to find it here.
Our system, our network is not actually by country; it's actually by language. If you put your language, if you change your language in the system, you will see the games in that language. So you don't have to to actually change the country you come from. You change the language, and that's enough. Our audience is mostly non-English speakers, the people who are comfortable in other languages except English. There is a big chunk of English speakers, but most of our audience are people that are not comfortable necessarily in English. They're more comfortable in their own language, mostly Dutch, German, French, Italian, and Arabic.
All right, I see a hand waving over there.
Really, to any of you, could you, on this theme of localization and translation, can you talk about what assistance you might offer to game developers in localizing and translating the product?
That feels like a setup, Mike. Anyway, let's start from the end and go this way. All right,
That's
Sebastian.
exactly what we are offering. So we are translating these games into, I think, 14 different languages with native speaker, and then put it into all of these networks, for example, Netlog, High5, and some other networks as well. So we are going to all of these networks with a specific language version, and we even do the community management and support in all of these languages.
Let's make our way down. Jim.
So I said Congregate as a site is principally in English. So we have local communities. People have chat in their own languages, leave messages in their own languages, but the content is by and large English. We have a few games that are localized, but overall our audience is pretty comfortable with English content, being kind of a youth audience and kind of more from Northern and Western Europe when mostly it's US and Canada and UK, but outside of that, it's a English-speaking audience. Having said that, we're interested in deepening our relationship internationally. GameStop, our parent company, certainly has very strong ties in France, Spain, Italy, and a lot of other European countries. And so, in the future, we may be doing more localization, and we'll work with developers on that as well. But currently, it's really an English site.
Mr. Peterson.
Yep. So from Tag's perspective, we're looking at this as a publisher-developer relationship, and so as products that are brought from third-party developers to Tag would be treated, as a Tag product and provided appropriate support from a localization perspective, so the product has broadest reach possible, and obviously we would handle all the customer support as well as it relates to the product. I think that the key is that our desire is to have products that are brought to Tag from non-first party titles, whether it's commission development or titles that are brought to us, to be viewed at the same level as an internally developed game. From a customer perspective, we don't want them to really have any sense that a game is developed externally versus internally. We want them to be treated equally, both from a support and localization perspective.
Yep. Simon.
I'd like to say that Plinga has been one of our dedicated partner. We get full support from Plinga and from others, but mainly from Plinga to translate and to localize games, and it has been very successful so far. And they're providing a lot of support in many areas, especially in advice that about how to improve games and how to make them more to make them fit in terms of the locality or in terms of the language. So Plinga is a good place for you to start if you're looking for a partner. We also support some of our developers, the ones that work with us directly. We support them, especially in, as I said before, in Arabic. But we also, in other languages, we have a specific translation tool that makes it easier for us to translate games into the languages we need.
And High5 Networks is localized into over 40 languages at this point. One of the things that made it successful as an international social networking site early was some amazing tools and some crowdsourcing support in order to get it into a lot of languages very quickly. So while a lot of people talk about their support for eFigs, for getting game content out there, I'd come up with my own internal acronym for what languages are relevant to High5. Thief's RPG, so we have Thai, we have Italian, we have English, we have French, we have Spanish, we have Romanian, we have Portuguese and German. So that's a whole higgledy-piggledy of languages there, and we do offer localization support to partners. So if you find that you've got a game that's performing very well in specific territories, you can get a 30% revenue bump by localizing it, is kind of what we've discovered on our network. And traditionally, a couple of territories have some unusual differences. I call out Thailand there as one of the first ones because the language is very unusual. So if you set your language to Thai and go to the High Five site, you're likely to see a lot of very interesting things happen on your computer because the language is very unique by comparison to some of the other ones there. But for the games that are doing well on the site, we've been very happy to say, hey, you want us to talk about setting up with a complementary localization or two to see how that affects your game? We've been always very happy to do that. One other minor call out, developer relations guy from High Five, Zachary Slater, sitting down there. Let him wave his hand, so if you want to chase him down after the questions are over as well, just want to point that out. Additional questions, anyone? Hands up, left hand, right hand, other hand, you.
Yeah, hello, this is a question for Jim, from Congregate. Have you managed to bring your players from Congregate to Congregate Mobile? Or at least attract new players from the same demographic?
The question is, to repeat it for the recording's sake, is the Congregate had success with converting Congregate to Congregate mobile players or vice versa? So.
So first off, for those not familiar with what we're doing on mobile, we have it's really an analog of our web portal on Android, specifically on Android right now. So it has the full set of community features, achievements, profiles, comments, ratings, all these things, friends and messaging. Around about, I think it's around 500 Flash-based games. So it's sort of a portal for Flash games on Android. We have plans to, expand beyond those games that I'd be happy to talk about. So in terms of the audience, there is a lot of crossover with our web audience, but there's also a lot of people who are just coming to us directly from mobile who maybe don't even use Congregate on the web and are just looking for great games. So it's 10% of our web audience. It's not nearly as large yet, but it's growing quite quickly, and we're entering into some partnerships that I think will cause that to grow even faster. So there is a decent crossover right now, but also sort of a unique mobile audience that is new to us.
Any other questions? Okay, before I see a hand shoot up, I'm going to abuse my power as the person with the bigger mic for a moment. I want to talk a little bit about international price points for a second and then turn it over to everyone to speak to their experience a little bit. One of the things we found in bringing games off of Facebook is that Facebook is a very high oxygen environment for revenue, and a lot of people have price points that don't make sense in other places. And in working with some developers, it's been sort of a source of friction to sit down and talk about how to adjust your price points, because if you're coming from Facebook, generally you're looking at people who've set up a $5 or $10 minimum spend as their price point, and in some international territories, you will find that a 50-cent to $2 price range is going to be 90% of your transactions, and that's going to have a pretty big effect on your monetization. So when people I've spoken to have said, hey, you need to adjust some of your price points and put in some sensitivity for some of these international territories, and even if you provide a variety of things at the lower range, or do some minor variable per territory adjustment, that's going to help you in the long run. And a lot of people are like, no, we've been doing this on Facebook for a while, we really understand price points. And then when they come back and take a look at their ARPU and find it's a fraction of what it should be, if you multiply that out by the 90% of transactions that are missed, it makes sense in the global scheme of things. So the one analogy I keep trying to tell people is that it's inappropriate to use rock samples from the moon to determine the water content on Mars. So just going down, can you guys talk a little bit to what you've discovered in terms of international price point sensitivity on your sites and with some of your content?
Yeah, you are completely right, as you already said. So it really depends on the country. What we are seeing is that there is 30% less revenue in Poland compared to the German or Netherlands market. So it really depends on your target audience, and you really need to test. I would say we are doing a lot of A/B testing with the price points when we are going into a new market to get the right price points and to get as much revenue as possible.
So the international territories that are big for us are you know, GDP per capita is pretty comparable to the US, so we haven't really gone in that direction. I mean, UK, Germany, Scandinavian countries, those are kind of our top foreign markets, so we haven't done this yet. But of course, it may be a self-fulfilling prophecy that the reason the revenue is coming from those places is because we've tuned it such. But we're more focused on growing within the territories that we're, have a stakehold in versus kind of going into the sort of the broader international markets where there's probably more price sensitivity. So it's not something that we're as specialized in as some of the other panelists here, I think.
Yeah, I would probably echo more what Jim's saying, is that it's not a highly focused area for us. I think the main thing that we're really looking at supporting is the idea of having a currency that's fairly granular, so that you can go down to lower price points. Obviously with Facebook and Facebook credits, it makes it difficult to do that for some folks who don't necessarily have a high degree of discretionary money. So I think the main thing is that you remain flexible so that you can support those markets.
Simon? I think for us, we mostly relied on advice from, for example, from Plinga about their findings and what they were testing. We didn't do anything on our own in terms of setting up prices. We're trying to compare to what is happening with the same applications on various systems, but for the most part, we were consulting with with our providers like Plinga.
Cool. All right. Any other questions? Anyone? Okie dokie. Let's wrap it up. The gentlemen are here for business cards and all that good stuff. And thank you all for coming.